Hey guys, excuse my hair, it looks like a hot mess. But today I wanted to talk about something that me and my mom were kind of talking about last night. I have mentioned this before on previous social medias that I can, see, hear things that other people can't. And it's not like, I can, do all this stuff. No, it's only certain times and certain things. Mainly I try to not see or hear anything, if that makes sense. I try to, like, when I go to certain places and I can feel something already, like when I'm walking in somebody's house and I know it's there, and I just, in my mind, I'm like, okay, nothing's there, or sometimes I'm just like, leave me alone, don't talk to me, stuff like that. It's not that I'm scared of it, it's I really don't want, like, if I'm there for a certain reason, I'm not trying to, really see what's going on or have it mess with me or anything like that. I can't just look at something and see it. It doesn't always work like that. Someone think, like, when people have known me in the past, they're like, oh, do you see something? It's only if it wants me to see it. That's pretty much it. But yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about. My mom was mentioning to me last night about, something in the past. And I remember when I was little, the main thing I would have when I was probably like 5 or 6, I've never ever met my grandpa. He passed away before, he passed away before I was born. My birthday is like something, it would be like around his 1-year anniversary that he passed away. He passed away the year before I was born. And it was always really weird to me because I would have these dreams and I would describe the man to my dad. And at first my dad never knew what I was talking about. Then finally he actually listened to me and he was like, that's your grandpa. And I would say, yeah, he's in, I was little. And I would tell my dad, like, he was in my dreams and he would come, like, he was just this older dude that would come and talk to me and hug me and stuff like that in my dreams. Never ever thought anything of it. I would just think that, it was some random old dude in my, in my dreams. So when I would describe it to my dad would be like, that's my dad. And I guess at that point, my dad does not really, like, when we say, oh, like, something's there or whatever, my dad would always be like, it's nothing, it's in your mind, or that stuff like that. So, because my dad, I don't know if he, maybe he's scared, I don't know. I don't think he is, but I don't think he wants to see anything. But my mom, my grandma, and a few of my other aunts, my great aunts, have, I guess this ability, maybe, I guess that's what it's called. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a professional or anything with this. No, a lot of people aren't. It just happens a lot. I know a lot of people see stuff because growing up, I knew a lot of friends that we would be places and I would see something and then they would look at me and they would be like, you see that, right? And I would be like, yeah, I see it. So I knew they had the ability too. And then our other friends would be right there. They'd be like, what are y'all talking about? Like, something wrong with y'all? And then we would just keep it a secret. We would just be like, no, we see it. Like, it's, we're not messing with it. So yeah, I had a few friends, like I said, growing up. But me and my mom were talking about something about this last night, and she was just telling me, like, oh, like, you remember stuff like that? And I said, yeah. I remember a lot of stuff. And growing up, it scared me until I understood it. But yeah, my first serious, my first encounter like that was, like I said in a social media story, it was whenever I seen a figure standing over my bed, besides my grandpa. Besides seeing my grandpa in my dreams, it was me seeing that thing over my bed. And I said I was little. So let's talk about the first encounter. I would be able to see things over my bed. Like, I would be asleep, laying back, and I would just feel something staring at me. And then when I would open my eyes, it was just like a black shadow figure standing over me. It always scared me because I wasn't able to see its face or anything. I would just see, like, the silhouette of it. So the first time I would think I was probably like around the same time, like 5 or 6. And I remember me and my sister had we had our own room. I mean, we had our own room, and it was like my little bed and her bed. And I used to like sleep in her bed because I was always scared. So I remember sleeping in her bed, and my parents' room was like way across the thing. Like, you know, I mean, not way across the thing, but like, you know, you had to pass through the hallway to pass the restroom and then, you know, get to my parents' room. But for me, I was a little girl, so I felt like a long, you know, a really long run because I had little legs. I'm like, okay, let me go. Yeah, I remember my sister, I guess she got up in the morning. She got up to use the restroom, and then she ended up going and sitting on the couch and going to sleep. It might have been like 2, 3 in the morning. But I remember I was laying there, and I felt something staring over me, and at first I thought it was my sister. And I remember I kind of looked up, and it wasn't her. It was, you know, the shadow thing staring over me. And I just remember it was looking at me while I was laying down, and you know, like that weird creepy tilt in its head. It was just looking at me like that, like, and I was just like, oh my God. And I was little, so I just ran. I got up and I ran to my mom's room. I jumped in the bed, and my mom was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, nothing. And I just remember I laid down. As I got older, I told my mom this story. And she laughs because she's like, why did you say anything? She's like, why did you say anything? But my mom always told me to pray every time I was, and I never know why she told me. Never knew why. Never knew why she told me to pray. And turns out it's because she's seen stuff too. She was just like, oh, when you see something, pray. I was just be like, why is she telling me this? Anywho, that's why mom told me to pray. Never knew why. Found out why. And besides that, my other, you know, encounters were like just not, I didn't see anything. Maybe for like those past three years after that, I didn't really see anything. It was just like things that would mess with me. Like we would go to my Aunt Frances' house, and she lived maybe not that far from us, but she had a big, you know, big giant property. You know, tons of acres. You would have to drive in. It was all green, full of trees, everything. It was pretty. Like a little forest. Looked like she lived in a forest. And she loved it. And she had her little, you know, her little space there. I mean, her house. So cute. And I remember we used to go over there. And I used to tell her. And she would tell me, it's okay. Like, you know, don't be afraid. I would just be like, okay. I would put she had these little plastic flower cups. I don't know if you know, some of you might know. It's like those plastic clear cups, and they had like little orange flowers on them and yellow flowers. Super pretty cups. Now I think about it, I should start looking for those cups. Anyways, those cups, she would give me like juice or something, and I remember I would put it on the table, and I remember something would knock it off. And I'm like, okay, maybe the bottom of the cup was wet, and it just slipped off. Oh no, pick it back up, put it on there. After a while, I'm like, okay, something's messing with me. And I just remember sitting there watching TV. You know, it was like the old little antenna TVs. And I would sit there watching TV, and then the TV would turn off. And I would be like, Aunt Frances is like, something's wrong with the TV. And she would just be like, it reminds me of that movie. But I remember I would tell her that, and she would be like, oh, just turn it back on. Later on, my aunt would tell my mom, like, oh, you know, she sees stuff. My mom would be like, yeah, she does. Like my mom, I told mom, I said, why didn't you talk to me about stuff like this? She's just like, I don't know, you were just so little. I didn't think to talk to you about it. Because I think you would understand. Which I probably would not have. But still, I would have liked some clarity, you know. So we are going to be going through some of those stories. I have a lot of stories. Too many to count. I have a lot of stories that are like that. I'm going to be sharing that on this channel too. This channel is going to be a mix of everything, pretty much. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share the next story soon. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching, guys. Have a good morning.